Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So you'll notice very quickly that we are not in my shop. We are over at my buddy Matt's place, and you guys may be familiar with him if you've been around the channel for any period of time. But there is the man, the myth, the legend himself, doing some hose work on his mill right now. And what we are going to do today is actually cut the head flange for the Mark II's new turbo manifold. So this will be a pretty cool behind the scenes of what it takes to manufacture a part like this. And anytime that you see a machined head flange or a machined flange of any type, this is kind of how it goes. So we have this design here on the computer. This is what we're going to be making. And Matt, where's that piece that you just had? Yes. So this piece of raw 304 stainless bar stock is going to become that flange. So it'll be pretty cool to see all the different machining operations and see exactly how we take this from a piece of raw material to a functional part. So Matt, aside from playing with your hose there, do you have any smart words as to how this is going to go, or any big considerations that need to happen before you actually get started machining?
The first thing is actually getting the aluminum chips out, because I was doing a big aluminum job.
Yes.
So that way I don't cross-contaminate my chips, so I can recycle them.
You're saying you generally don't want to do that?
No.
Okay.
Don't. So.
And then these are some of the aluminum parts that you were working on right here. Beautiful pieces. Yeah, I think they're for a rotary of some sort, if I'm not mistaken. But get everything cleaned out, start with a fresh slate, and before too long we'll be slinging stainless chips instead of aluminum ones. Well, we've done all of our checks and all of our balances and everything else, and I think at this point in time we are about ready to turn the machine on, put tools to metal, and start turning this piece of stainless bar stock into the flange. So Matt, any last words before we start cutting some stuff?
Nope, it's about to be fun.
Cool. Make some pretty interesting chips, pretty interesting noises, and we'll get after it. face side of the flange is now completed, and man, this thing is beautiful. So you can see all the different features and everything else on this. And obviously the ports are not through the whole way yet. Those will be completed when the flange flips over and we do the actual mating side of it. But have a nice chamfer the whole way around and around all the holes and everything else. We have receivers that will allow the piece of tubing to sit down in there and be located appropriately. And this thing is just gorgeous. I mean, look at the surface finish on it. As I play around with different angles, you can see the light hitting, and this thing is incredible. Look at the side here is essentially a mirror finish. So I couldn't be happier with this. And right now Matt is working on some final stuff for the backside. So if you see, the backside has a protruding gasket surface, and that is there so when it comes time to actually plane the flange, when all the welding is done and everything, I'm not having to sand the entire flange, it's just the protruding gasket portion. It makes that portion of the header build much easier. So Matt will finish up this last little bit that he's doing, then we'll flip this over, index again, and start cutting the mating side. Well, we have successfully taken raw materials and turned them into a functional part. So this is what we are left with. And this is the outside face of the flange right here. Absolutely beautiful. The surface finish is impeccable on it. This cutout right here is to clear some sort of a bracket or something. I can't remember exactly what it is, but everything fits the head perfectly and everything is beautiful. And the business side that will unfortunately be covered up is this side right here. And this is where the details are really important. So like I talked about earlier, you can see the protruding gasket surface. This is what will make it easier to sand this flange down, as well as make it so all the clamping force that is provided by the fasteners through this flange is applied directly to the gasket and helps it seal. And this flange is almost too nice to be used on an old 5M, but that's the life it's destined for, and that's what we'll use it for. So I can't get too much more wordy than that right now. It is almost, if not 2 o'clock in the morning right now, so Matt and I are both pretty well spent at this point in time. So I'm going to wrap up now, and we can do some more talking about the flange and show the fitment and everything in the next segment of the video. So Matt, as always, my friend, I thank you very much for all of your hard work and your effort and expertise and everything, and couldn't have done it without you. So thank you very much. And with that being said, and on that note, I'm going to go home, get some sleep. I'm sure Matt wants to go get some sleep as well, and we'll pick it up later. I'm back at the shop now after a late night at Matt's last night, but we went ahead and obviously got the Mark II's head flange knocked out, and I have it cleaned up now, so let's take a look at it and go over the features on it. So, looking at the face side now, you can see the beautiful surface finish and beautiful tooling marks all throughout it, as well as all of the receiver grooves right here. And the receivers are set up for this 1.5" tubing that I'm using for this turbo header. You can see that it sits right in there, and this allows me to locate the tubing that I'm using in this case and not be chasing the port around the flange. The tube slides right into that receiver and there's no guesswork involved. So beyond that, every single edge is chamfered, so there are no burrs or anything like that. And this area that looks kind of funky right here is set up for this power steering bracket right here, and it needs to make its way around this outcropping of the bracket right there. So that's why we machined it in the manner that we did, and I'll show in a few minutes, but it fits perfect and all is well on that front. So that's pretty much it for the face of the flange. We flip it up on edge like this. You can see still some beautiful surface finish, and Matt has this dialed in very well where it almost acts as a mirror, and I could not be happier with that. And let me actually put a rag down so I don't scratch the surface of the flange up. So now with the flange face side down, we are looking at the business side, or the side that actually mates to the head flange. And it looks complex, but don't worry, we'll go through it and everything will make sense here in a moment. So surface finish wise, absolutely beautiful. Again, you can see all the beautiful tooling marks all throughout these pockets and across the, I guess, the mating face of the flange here. So the most important part to talk about here is the protruding gasket surface. So if I come down to this level, you can see that this surface right here sits higher than this right here. So I like to have flanges designed in this manner for a couple of reasons. Reason one being, when it comes time to actually sand the flange down when I'm done doing my job, it makes it much easier to actually flatten the flange out on my handy old belt sander right here if I'm grinding a smaller portion or a smaller area of the flange as opposed to the whole flat flange back here. So there's a little bit more machine work involved in doing this, but it makes my life easier and it makes the job a little bit better to do. So the actual performance benefit of it is, once it's flattened and bolted down to the cylinder head, if you have just the gasket surface protruding off of the flange, you're not wasting any of that torque and any of that clamping force on any portion of the flange that doesn't need it in order to seal. So with the gasket surface protruding up from the, I guess in this case, lower face of the flange right here, every bit of the torque that I'm putting on this flange is transmitted directly into the gasket and assisting in actually making this thing seal up and get the exhaust gas where it needs to go. So beyond that, you can see every edge is chamfered again, and the ports are actually chamfered more than the edges. We did this for the reason to accommodate any little misalignment with the flange. So we went a little bit oversized on the bolt holes just to make sure that this thing slides in and off of the studs easily on the side of the cylinder head. But in doing so, the larger the tolerance of all of the holes are, the more ability the flange has to move around. And these chamfers right here, these larger chamfers, are to help combat that a little bit. I'll probably come in with a cartridge roll and smooth out the edges on the inside here, but all in all, absolutely beautiful. Cannot wait to start building with this flange. So if we take the flange now over to the car, we'll see if I can do this with one hand. And we get it on one stud there, the other stud there. You can see it slides right up onto the cylinder head, no issues. And you can see that it clears that bracket perfectly. And everything sits very nicely and this will be a great base to start building the new turbo header for this car. So at this point in time, it is a blank slate, and I cannot wait to begin building this new header. Now, I'll have some considerations and some things to work around as I'm doing this, namely probably this oil pressure sensor right here. I'm assuming that's what it is, as well as the oil filter, or the oil filter relocation that is housed right here. So I'll need to clean that up and reinstall it, so that way I have that in place, as there's no sense in doing any guesswork when it comes to doing fabrication. It can be a little bit difficult and to convince customers at different points in time, hey, you need to have the car complete, or as complete as possible, or every single one of the items that is going to be an impediment to the work that I'm doing in place. Otherwise, this job is just guesswork, and nobody wins when you're doing guesswork with fabrication. But you can see I have this whole area right here to work in, and this should work out very nicely and should end up equating to a pretty nice header when everything is said and done. So to end this video off, let's take a look at what the flange and everything looks like on the fixture. So here are all of the foundational elements to build this new turbo header. So we have our two primary collectors, our secondary collector on the turbine flange and everything, obviously, as well as the head flange roughly put on the head flange plate. I have 3 fasteners tightened down, the rest of them can be loose for the time being. And in looking at this, it looks like I can build 1, 2, maybe 3, 4, 5 out of the 6 primaries. The 6th right here I will need to build once the rest of it is completed and I can pull everything off of the fixture. That's no matter, not a big deal, and the rest of this I can sit and kind of stew over it, figure out a game plan, and then execute the game plan and build what will end up being one of my favorite and coolest headers to date. So this is where we will end off for right now. You can see all of Matt's beauty and everything, or all of Matt's beautiful work, I should say, on this head flange. And before too long, there'll be some welds and everything else on there, and hopefully I can do his beautiful work justice. So I think that will be about the end of this episode. And guys, if you need any CNC work or machining work, any engineering work, anything like that done, please do not hesitate to reach out to Matt. I will leave his information in the pinned comment below. His company is Backyard CNC Works, and he does phenomenal work. You guys got to see the entire process behind the scenes, which is kind of a rare look for any machining work like that. And thankfully, he was kind and gracious enough to allow us to come along on this journey with him. So Matt, I thank you very much. I can't wait to get some welds put down on this flange, and I cannot wait to get working on your car sometime in the future. But with all of that being said, that will be about the end of this episode. So thank you guys, as always, for tuning in and coming on all these different journeys and adventures with me. Whether we're over at Matt's doing machining stuff, here working on cars, or doing all of the other things we've done in the past here, I thank you all very much for coming on all these adventures with me and coming along and having fun with me. Having a blast with all of this. I hope that you guys are enjoying yourselves and learning some things along the way. And this is just the beginning. We have a lot of interesting stuff coming up between this car, that car, and the Lexus that will be coming back down here, hopefully in the very near future. So a lot of things to look forward to, a lot of additional welding, fabrication, building, and design work, but we will have to get to all those things later because this episode is completed at this point. So with all of that being said, that'll be the end of this one. So as always, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, check out the website for manifolds, for merch, for all things good that way, and I will see you all in the next episode.